This video is a creative portrayal inspired by real-life experiences. Some visuals are dramatized or AI generated for storytelling purposes, not intended as professional advice. Viewer discretion advised.
Hi everyone, please subscribe, comment, and turn on notifications. This helps my channel grow and keeps you updated. I love hearing from you, so please engage. Thanks for your support. I thought love was no longer in the picture for me. I was wrong.
Before this story unfolds, you need to understand something. This is not just a love story. This is a story about loss, survival, and restoration. It's about a woman who faced one of life's greatest battles and lived to tell it. But survival came with a cost, one she believed would follow her forever. She never imagined that love would find her again, and certainly not like this. This is the story of what happens when someone sees beyond the scars, beyond the fear, beyond the mirror, and chooses you anyway. This is love beyond the mirror. Sometimes, the mirror shows us what we've lost, the things we can't get back, the parts of ourselves that changed without permission. And for a long time, that's all I could see. I saw loss, I saw pain, I saw a version of myself I didn't recognize anymore. I survived breast cancer, but survival doesn't always feel like living. I lost both breasts, and with that, I believed I lost something deeper. I lost confidence, I lost the image I once held of myself, and quietly, I believed I had lost love too. So I stopped expecting it. I stopped looking for it. And I told myself, be grateful you made it through. But deep down, there was still a question. Was I still worthy of being loved as I am now?
Sisters, we are gathered here in fellowship to uplift one another. Let us carry this spirit forward with grace and unity.
I kept going, because that's what strong women do. I poured into others. I encouraged. I lifted people up. I showed up in rooms with strength, with wisdom, with purpose. And people saw me as whole. But there were quiet moments when I didn't feel that way. Moments when I questioned if anyone would truly see me beyond what I had been through. I had built a life, a meaningful one, but I had quietly closed the door on love. Not because I didn't believe in it, but because I didn't believe it was still for me. So I focused on purpose. And I told myself, that's enough. Somewhere else, there was a man, successful, accomplished. He had built a life many would admire. He had resources, stability, experience. But even with all of that, there was still something missing. Because success doesn't replace connection, and achievement doesn't fill the space where love belongs. He wasn't looking for perfection. He was looking for something real. And at the time, neither of us knew our paths were about to cross. Then one day, our worlds met. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't planned. It was simple and unexpected. But there was something there, something calm, something genuine. No pressure, no pretending. Just presence. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to hide. We talked, we shared, we listened. And something began to shift, very quietly, very gently. At the outreach center, the atmosphere was alive with purpose. Volunteers moving with intention, conversations flowing, hands busy serving others. It was in that space, surrounded by giving and grace, that Kenji first truly noticed DeAnn. She wasn't trying to be seen. She was focused, sorting, organizing, offering a kind word here, a gentle smile there. There was something about her presence that stood out without effort. Not loud, not flashy, just steady, grounded, and genuine. And that's what caught him. Kenji found himself watching her for a moment longer than usual, not out of curiosity, but out of admiration. There was strength in the way she carried herself, and warmth in the way she interacted with others. It wasn't just what she was doing, it was how she was doing it. So, he made his way over. At first, it was simple, an offer to help, a shared task, a few light words exchanged over folded clothes and stacked boxes. But for Kenji, it was more than conversation. It was an opportunity. He wasn't trying to impress her with status or accomplishments. Those things had their place, but not here. Instead, he leaned into presence, into attentiveness, into being fully engaged in the moment they were sharing. He asked questions, not surface ones, but thoughtful ones. He listened, really listened, picking up on the details, the tone, the meaning behind her words. And when she spoke, he responded with sincerity, not performance. Still, there was a quiet determination in him. He found small ways to stay nearby, offering assistance, sharing a brief joke, creating moments where conversation could naturally continue. Nothing forced, nothing rushed, just consistent, intentional effort. And every now and then, he'd add a touch of light humor, just enough to see if he could draw out that smile again. And when it came, even briefly, it encouraged him. Because it meant something was there. DeAnn, for her part, noticed. Not immediately in the way he might have hoped, but gradually. She saw his consistency, his kindness, the way he showed up, not just for her, but for the work, for the people, for the purpose they were both part of. There was no pressure in him, just presence. And that mattered. As the day moved forward, their conversations became easier, more natural. There were moments of shared laughter, moments of quiet understanding, moments that lingered just a second longer than expected. And finally, with a calm confidence that reflected more intention than nerves, Kenji asked, "Would you be open to continuing this conversation, outside of here?" It wasn't flashy, it wasn't rehearsed, but it was real, and in that moment, surrounded by service, purpose, and something quietly unfolding, what began as a simple conversation became the start of something neither of them had planned. But both would come to value deeply.
Hi, I'm a new volunteer. I'm glad to meet you.
Hi there. I'm a volunteer too.
Would you like to meet for dinner sometime?
I'd love that. To good company.
And great conversation.
This is so good.
It really is. The pastries are perfect.
We should do this more often.
Beneath soft evening lights, DeAnn and Kenji shared a quiet cafe moment, laughter rising as easily as their coffee cups. What began as conversation unfolded into connection, unforced, genuine, and warm. In that space, DeAnn felt seen, not for her past, but for who she had become. And in his presence, love felt simple and possible again. I told him everything. I told him about the cancer, the surgeries, the loss. I told him what my body had been through, and how it changed me. And then, I waited. I prepared myself, for distance, for hesitation, for goodbye. He didn't pull away. He didn't hesitate. He didn't see what I lost. He saw me. He saw my strength, my heart, my journey, and in that moment, something shifted. I felt fully seen, and still chosen.
This is so lovely.
Not as lovely as you.
Dance with me.
I thought you'd never ask.
You still sweep me off my feet.
The ballroom shimmered with soft light, chandeliers casting a golden glow across polished floors as music filled the room with elegance and rhythm. It was an evening shaped by Kenji's social obligations through their church, an event of grace, connection, and community. But for DeAnn and Kenji, it quickly became something more. From the moment they stepped onto the floor, formality gave way to joy. Kenji extended his hand, not out of duty, but with a quiet excitement, as if inviting her into a moment he couldn't wait to share. DeAnn smiled, placing her hand in his, and just like that, the room around them seemed to fade. They moved together with ease, no pressure, no perfection, just presence. The music guided them, but it was their connection that carried them. At times they swayed slowly, close enough to feel each other's breath, his hand steady at her back, hers resting comfortably against his shoulder. Other moments were lighter, playful, small turns, shared laughter, glances that said everything words didn't need to. Between songs, they lingered close, not rushing away from the dance floor, not pulled by conversation or expectation. There were quiet moments when Kenji would gently pull her in, their foreheads nearly touching, both smiling without reason, just content to be there, together. And then there was the laughter. The kind that comes when you feel completely at ease. When you're no longer thinking about how you look, or what others see. When joy is no longer something you search for, it's something you're living in. They laughed freely, softly, sometimes uncontrollably, catching each other's eyes as if sharing a private joke no one else could hear. Though the room was filled with people, conversations, music, movement, there was a quiet world that existed just between them. Kenji didn't dance as a man fulfilling an obligation. He danced as a man who had found something worth celebrating. And DeAnn, she wasn't simply attending an event. She was living in a moment she once thought she'd never have again. There was something beautifully unspoken in the way he held her, not tightly, not possessively, but with intention. With care, with presence. As if every step across that floor was his way of saying, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. As the evening continued, they didn't tire, they settled deeper into it. The music, the movement, the shared glances, it all became part of a rhythm that felt natural, almost effortless. And in that ballroom, surrounded by elegance and expectation, they created something simple and real. Not performance, not perfection, just love, expressed in movement, in laughter, in closeness. A reminder that sometimes the most beautiful moments in life are not the grand ones, but the ones where you feel free enough to be fully present, and fully yourself, with someone who sees you.
Volunteering today was such a wonderful idea.
We're creating so many first things and first time together. I'm so happy I'm getting teary-eyed.
It's a beautiful thing.
At the shelter, the air carried a quiet mix of need and gratitude, voices low, movements steady, hearts open. DeAnn and Kenji stood side by side behind a long table, aprons tied, hands busy, serving meals with care and intention. For them, this wasn't just volunteering. It was shared purpose. Kenji moved with calm focus, carefully placing portions onto each plate, making sure no one was overlooked. DeAnn greeted each person with warmth, her smile gentle, her eyes kind, her words soft but meaningful. She didn't just hand out food, she acknowledged people. She saw them, and together, they created something more than service. They created dignity. There were small moments between them, glances exchanged across the table, quiet smiles, a light touch on the arm as they moved past each other. Nothing distracting, nothing excessive, just the natural rhythm of two people working in harmony. At times, Kenji would lean in and say something light, just enough to draw a quick laugh from DeAnn before they returned to the work. And in those brief exchanges, there was joy, simple, unforced, real. What made the moment powerful wasn't just that they were giving. It was how they were giving. Not out of obligation, not for recognition, but from a place of compassion that lived in both of them. Each plate served became an act of kindness. Each interaction, a reminder that people matter. And as the line moved and the evening continued, it became clear, this was something they both valued deeply. Not just as individuals, but as a couple. They weren't just building a relationship through dinners and conversations. They were building it through purpose. Through showing up, through serving others, through choosing to give, together. And in that shelter, surrounded by need, something beautiful was quietly growing between them. A love rooted not just in connection, but in compassion.
Bags are a great find.
Yeah, perfect for the kids' packs.
I'll grab some milk cartons.
Good idea. I'll sort the water. We're making great progress.
Great job, partner. High five.
You too. We're crushing it.
All right, let's keep this area pristine.
Sounds good. I'll get this one.
Perfect. On to the next.
They first met beneath the soft glow of a charity gala, not as guests, but as volunteers, quietly serving, side by side. What began as a shared assignment became a shared purpose. Now, they continue that mission together, sorting clothing with care and compassion on behalf of their church. For DeAnn and Kenji, giving back isn't occasional, it's a calling, lived out hand in hand.
Hey, you two look hungry. Want some food?
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We could use a break. There you go.
What began as simple service soon became something they both looked forward to. Volunteering was no longer just an act of giving, it became their time to laugh, connect, and share purpose. Whether sorting donations or serving meals, they found joy in the small moments, exchanging smiles, playful conversation, and quiet teamwork. In giving to others, they discovered something unexpected, happiness, togetherness, and a love that grew stronger with every act of kindness.
This evening is just wonderful, isn't it?
It truly is. I'm so glad we could be here.
The ballroom glowed with elegance, chandeliers sparkling, soft music floating through the air, and the gentle hum of conversation surrounding them. Yet among all the beauty, nothing shined brighter than the joy radiating from DeAnn and Kenji. From the moment they stepped inside, there was an unmistakable lightness about them. DeAnn's smile was full and effortless, the kind that comes from a heart at peace. Kenji, standing beside her, couldn't hide his happiness, his eyes lingering on her with quiet admiration, as if the evening had already exceeded every expectation simply because she was there. They moved through the room with grace, greeting others warmly, but always returning to each other, sharing glances, soft laughter, and moments that felt like their own private celebration. There was no stiffness, no pretense. Just genuine delight. When the music swelled, Kenji gently reached for her hand, and without hesitation, she followed. On the dance floor, they weren't concerned with perfection or performance. They simply moved together, smiling, laughing, and enjoying every second. There were moments when they drew close, smiling as if the rest of the room had faded away, and others where laughter broke through, light and free. They were beaming, not because of the event, the elegance, or the attention, but because they were there together. For DeAnn, this was more than an evening out. It was a moment she once thought she might never experience again, feeling beautiful, seen, and completely at ease in a space like this. And for Kenji, there was no greater joy than watching her shine, knowing he had the privilege of sharing this life with her. In that room filled with refinement and celebration, what stood out most wasn't the grandeur. It was their happiness, unfiltered, unforced, undeniably real, and in every smile, every glance, every shared laugh, it was clear, they weren't just attending the evening. They were living it, fully, joyfully, and together. DeAnn and Kenji chose a quiet park, where conversation flowed as gently as the breeze through the trees. There was no need to impress, only to be present. Side by side, their steps fell into rhythm, unhurried and natural. Laughter came easily, but so did silence, the kind that feels safe. In that simple walk, something deeper was forming, trust, ease, and the quiet beginning of something lasting.
It's so beautiful out here.
It is. Perfect for a walk.
With you, always. I can't believe you were actually attacked by squirrels while sitting on a park bench. That's too funny.
Kenji first noticed it in the quiet moments, before the day fully began, when the world was still and unhurried. DeAnn moved with intention, her steps slow, deliberate, and balanced. There was a grace to it, not just in form, but in focus. It wasn't exercise for appearance, it was discipline for life. Tai Chi walking had become her rhythm, her way of maintaining strength, mobility, and peace. Every movement carried purpose. Every step reflected a commitment not just to her body, but to her well-being as a whole. And it impressed him, not because it was complex, but because it was consistent. Kenji, a man accustomed to structure and results, recognized something deeper in what she was doing. This wasn't about quick outcomes or temporary effort. It was about sustainability, care, and honoring the body through every stage of life. He saw strength in her, not loud or forceful, but steady and rooted. So he asked her about it. What began as curiosity quickly became admiration. And before long, admiration turned into participation. He joined her. At first, it felt unfamiliar, slowing down, focusing on movement, letting go of the need to rush. But as he followed her lead, step by step, something shifted. His breathing deepened, his thoughts quieted, his body began to respond in a way that felt aligned. It wasn't just beneficial, it was grounding, and it became something more than a personal practice. It became their practice. Now, side by side, they move in rhythm, no competition, no pressure, just shared intention. What started as her commitment to wellness has become a part of his daily routine as well. Not only because he sees its value, but because it gives them another space to connect. Another way to grow, another way to be present together. In those moments, there are no distractions, just movement, breath, and quiet understanding. For Kenji, Tai Chi walking is no longer just something DeAnn does. It's something they share, a reflection of discipline, balance, and care. Not just for the body, but for the life they are building together.
This place is fantastic.
It is. I'm so glad we came.
It's a great company and good food.
This is delicious.
Thanks for the most amazing 100 days. I look forward
To a million more just like this. It's beautiful, Kenji. I love it.
to a million more. Till no more.
I love you more every day.
And I you, my love.
Her birthday, DeAnn expected a quiet, thoughtful evening, something intimate, something warm. What she didn't expect was to arrive at a beautifully lit restaurant and find it entirely empty. No crowd, no noise, just soft music, glowing candlelight, and Kenji standing there, waiting for her with a smile that said this night was meant only for you. He had rented the entire restaurant, not for grandeur, but for privacy, for presence, for a moment where nothing else in the world could interrupt what he was about to say. They were seated at a table dressed in elegance, fine china, flickering candles, and a quiet stillness that felt almost sacred. As the evening unfolded, they talked, laughed, and shared stories the way they always did, effortlessly, sincerely. Yet beneath it all, there was something deeper in the air, something unspoken. Kenji watched her closely that night. Not just with admiration, but with certainty. As dessert arrived and the music softened even more, he reached across the table and gently took her hand. The room seemed to pause. Time slowed. DeAnn, he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. I didn't know what was missing in my life, until you walked into it. There was no rush in his words. No script, just truth. You didn't just bring love, you brought peace, you brought joy, you brought me back to a place I didn't even know I had left. Her eyes softened, her heart already understanding where this moment was leading, but still overwhelmed by how deeply he felt it. Then, slowly, he stood. From his jacket, he revealed a small, elegant box, deep velvet, held with intention. As he opened it, the light caught something extraordinary. Inside was a breathtaking ring, a brilliant round-cut diamond, luminous and alive, set in a refined platinum band that curved delicately around it like it had been designed for her alone. On either side, smaller diamonds lined the band, catching every flicker of candlelight, creating a soft, radiant shimmer. It wasn't just beautiful, it was timeless. Just like what he saw in her. He stepped closer, his voice softer now, more intimate. I don't just love you. I honor you, I cherish you, and I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you, every single day. Then, lowering himself onto one knee, right there in that quiet, candlelit space made just for them, he asked the question that had been written in his heart long before that night, will you marry me? For a moment, there were no words. Just tears, just joy, just the overwhelming realization that love had not only found her again. It had found her fully. And in that quiet restaurant, filled with nothing but music, light, and truth. DeAnn's answer wasn't just yes. It was a beginning.
Happy birthday, my love.
This is wonderful.
I would like to do this for all your future.
The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of gold, amber, and soft crimson. DeAnn and Kenji sat side by side in quiet stillness. No words were needed. The day was ending, and so was their story as it had been told. But not in loss, not in sorrow, in completion. The same sun that had risen with promise was now setting with peace, reminding them that every ending carries its own kind of beauty. And as they watched the horizon soften, hand in hand, there was a shared understanding between them. This was never just about how their story began. It was about what it became. Every step, every tear, every moment of doubt had led to this place, a place of calm, of fulfillment, of love that had proven itself not in perfection, but in perseverance. And just like the sun, their journey had done its work. It had warmed what once felt cold. It had illuminated what once felt uncertain. And it had brought life to places they once thought were gone forever. As the final light dipped below the horizon, DeAnn leaned gently into Kenji, not out of need, but out of peace. The kind of peace that comes when you know you've lived, you've healed, and you've allowed yourself to receive something beautiful again. And in that quiet moment, their story didn't feel like it was ending. It felt like it was echoing. Echoing into the lives of those who would hear it. Echoing into hearts that needed to believe again. Echoing into every person who ever thought, maybe it's too late for me. Because if their story teaches anything, it's this. Endings are not always losses. Sometimes they are transitions into something greater. Sometimes the sun sets, just so you can appreciate the light it gave. And sometimes your story shifts, so you can step into the life you were meant to live. So if you're watching this, and you've been holding on to what didn't work, what didn't last, what didn't return, let this be your reminder. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, and you are not finished. Your story is still unfolding. Your light is still shining. And your next chapter may be more beautiful than anything you've seen so far. Because just like this sunset, what feels like an ending may actually be the beginning of something greater.
All he got is me, you know. Love isn't about what you see in the mirror. It's about the love that shines from within.
And that love makes you worthy, always.
Love beyond the mirror.
This is more than a love story. It's a journey of healing, of rediscovering worth, and learning that what you've lost does not define what remains. After facing cancer, loss, and uncertainty, I never thought love would find me again. But real love doesn't see your scars as limitations, it sees your strength as beauty. If this story touched your heart, I invite you to stay connected. Go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment, and hit the notification bell, so you don't miss what's coming next. And remember, you are still worthy, and it's not too late for you. Give an inspirational presentation based on personal experiences, storytelling, and dramatization. The individuals portrayed in this video, including DeAnn and Kenji, are representations created for illustrative and narrative purposes. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or deceased, is coincidental, except where expressly based on the creator's personal likeness and story. Some scenes, images, and interactions have been enhanced, recreated, or generated using digital tools, including artificial intelligence, to visually convey themes of healing, love, and restoration. This content is not intended as medical, legal, or professional advice. Viewers are encouraged to seek qualified professionals for specific guidance related to their personal circumstances. All content, including images, script, narration, and production, is the intellectual property of the creator and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without permission. Viewer discretion is advised. This video contains sensitive themes including illness, emotional healing, and personal transformation.
Hi everyone! Please subscribe, comment, and turn on notifications. This helps my channel grow and keeps you updated. I love hearing from you, so please engage. Thanks for your support.
This has been a DeAnn production.